onside is all.
Handball to the Cotton. There's the siren. And that's the Premio from 1962.
You can fight it.
There's the bounce. Somerville, and there's the siren. Victory for the Bombers.
But in the end, you'll fail.
Kevin Sheedy joins Dick Reynolds as the most successful club in over 100 years at this famous club.
The red and black runs through you.
Zaharakis! Zaharakis has kicked a goal! The Bombers are in front of the G!
It's deep and rich in history that no club can match.
Looking for a mark here. Daniel!
We have clubs in the AFL, the VFL, the VFLW and the brand new Wheelchair Football League. 4 clubs, 1 goal. Join Liam and Andrew for your weekly Essendon fix. Reviews, previews of all 4 clubs right here on the Flying Up podcast.
The other teams, they don't fear. They all try their best, but they can't get near as the Bombers fly on.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're listening to this podcast. This is the Flying Up podcast with Liam and Andrew. Welcome, Andrew.
Hello.
What a weekend it was in football.
It was some highs and some lows, mostly
lows. It was
probably about 22% highs and 88% lows.
Let's go back a few weeks ago
Okay.
when Essendon decided to play Fremantle, and I said Essendon needs to defeat Fremantle by 30 points
Yep.
because they want to be a top 4 team.
Definitely.
What's happened since?
They have lost against Fremantle by, was it 16 points? And
Which was a modest 16 points. It was
Yeah.
a foot off the gas pedal towards the end.
Exactly, yeah. It was a sort of, I think that was the
that
Fremantle. Fremantle players are probably, there's probably a Fremantle podcast where they're
Yeah.
saying, we said before we went into the Essendon match that we had to beat Essendon by at least
60
30
points.
points. Well, what did we do? We won, and then last week.
Wait. Before we get into that,
Yeah.
so we lost to Fremantle in Perth. We got none of the best record away from home.
No.
For home first game at the new Perth Stadium, so Free was up and about.
Yeah.
Could have been an off day.
Yeah.
It could have been.
It could have been.
Then
At the moment, we're looking at an off decade. Then last week, Essendon played Bulldogs at home at Etihad. I don't think it was a home match, was it? But it's still,
Yeah,
it's
the
Etihad.
way, yeah.
Who cares though? It's
It's
at
Essendon's home
Etihad.
ground.
Yeah.
it's weird that
Um,
Essendon and Carlton's home ground at Etihad. Would you
Yeah.
think being one of the big clubs would be the MCG? But yeah, it's Etihad.
Well, Essendon, I think at first they were trying to put the Western teams to the
Yeah,
to
Etihad,
Etihad
yeah.
and the Eastern teams to the MCG, but that hasn't worked because St Kilda still play at
St Kilda's Etihad.
Etihad, yeah, exactly. So anyway, we played at Etihad against the Bulldogs and we lost by, what was it? Something obscene, almost 30 points.
14, 20, 104 to 12, 11, 83.
83, nearly 30 points.
21 points the margin.
That is insane.
And
Against
the
the
Doggies.
Bullies, who had been undefeated,
And
who had been
injured.
defeated.
And been injury prone. Absolutely the walking wounded they were.
And
And
they
it
beat
was
us.
just not good at all. Oh, boy to the wow to the wee.
What, could you do that again?
Boy to the wow to the wee.
Not bad. That sounds like a mixture of Gaelic and
I
rap.
definitely did not copy it off a YouTuber who did that.
Oh, good. I'm glad you didn't do that.
Nah, definitely
And
not.
then you're glad that you didn't then go and say that in another podcast.
Nah, of course not.
Um,
I think it was probably the funniest thing I've ever heard of. That was fantastic.
No.
Um,
there really isn't much to commend about this,
And
is there?
let's talk about the biggest issue of the game, of course.
Yep.
Essendon, the last kicked the last 3 goals in a row. 3 goals in like 5 minutes. 16 points, sorry, 15 points to margin. 5 minutes to go. Kicks into the side of the 450.
Yep.
Danaher takes a mark.
In the goal square, pretty much.
10 metres out. And as a if you're a full forward, what would you do?
I would kick the goal or do my best to do it.
And if you're paid nearly $1 million a year to kick goals,
Yes.
what would you do?
I would do my absolute bloody best to kick that goal, and if I
Would
didn't,
you hand pass it to the bloody ground?
I would consider it for a millisecond and then think that was crazy. No, what am I doing here? Oh, glad that crazy thought passed. I'm just going to go and kick the goal. Kicked it, fantastic. I've done my job. Should I? That is
People say he tried to hand pass to Josh Green. No, he hand passed it to the dirt.
to the dirt.
It did
Now,
not hit Josh Green.
some
He
would
was a metre away from
Some
him.
would say that hand pass into the dirt was a better option than Josh Green anyway. But that still doesn't matter. The fact that Green got tackled within 3 seconds is surely not surprising. It's not. It's not understand. I mean, I don't really have any hard feelings towards Josh Green for this, because I do genuinely think he's still one of the best, probably the best player at the moment in Essendon, and that was a stupid, terrible position he was put in.
Do you know what happened
The blame
after?
should come solely on Danaher.
Do you know what happened after?
What?
Doggies get the ball down and kick the winning goal to put them up by 21 points. The game could have been over
know.
and won by the Dons. The ball was, if they kicked that goal,
Yeah.
they would have been 9 points 5 minutes ago. They would have won the game.
Exactly. Yes.
Essendon's ability to come back is best to none in the AFL without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
And what happened? He hand passed it.
It's insane. And this is what I was saying last week. I don't think Danaher is our best goalkeeper anymore, or our best forward. I
Well,
don't think
he's the best hand passer.
He's the best hand pass. He is fantastic at hand pass into the ground.
Oh, he's
I will say
absolutely
our best
phenomenal at that, isn't
In
he?
terms of stats into hand pass into the ground, he is up there. But
Oh.
if there was a medal, they should have the Danaher medal, which is for hand passing into the ground. And
Mate.
he would win it every single year.
Joey boy, just if you're going to tune into the podcast, which I highly suggest you
Please
should.
don't. Yeah, can we just put a disclaimer at the start of this episode saying, welcome to the Flying Up podcast. Joe Danaher, maybe not listen to this one.
So you had a good year last year. You won the best and fairest. You made All Australian. You came, I think, 4th in the Coleman. You played finals.
Yeah.
You're not having the best year this year.
No.
You know, you got how goalless still go. He hasn't played. He's played 2 games in 2 years. Not the best effort.
No.
You have a chance, and you know you signed a big contract. You have all this hype. You're Matthew Lloyd 2.0 now.
Yeah.
So what happened? You play like a spud.
And coming out, and particularly against Fremantle, to be a bigger spud than Fremantle is really saying something.
Not just that, the fact that he played against a guy who has not played footy in 2 years.
Yeah.
2 games in 2 years. Granted, Alex Pearce, All-Australian form, might I add.
Yeah.
But that was a absolutely poor display by Joe Danaher. You
Yeah.
kicked the goal. You're a forward. I know Josh Green's a forward, but you're the key forward.
I don't understand. In all seriousness, no one has really explained what that was about. No one has explained what the justification was for that, why he decided to do that. I do think that it wasn't just Danaher's craziness. I think that there's something because they handball profusely. I think it's time we address the handballing. That's no longer just a observation from an annoyed fan. This time, we once again had 1 1/3 times as many handballs as the Bullies. We had 195 handballs in one match. That is insane. The Bulldogs had 147, which I think is also high, but still 195. That is that just does not make sense. I kind of think why in a game where its name is football, where the key move is to kick the ball, and where the entire game is structured around people kicking the ball to one another, why they insist on handballing all the time?
That's be good in rugby, wouldn't they?
Oh, well, in our luck, if they started playing rugby, they'd just start to kick it. The thing about the handballing is it's not only that they're handballing strategically, they're just handballing for the sake of it. Often they'll handball it to people in pressure. There was a time during the match last week.
It's like when you mark it 10 metres out to win the bloody game and you hand pass it.
Exactly, yeah. And there was a time, I mean, that was the worst case, but there was a time during the match when a player who I won't name handballed
Oh,
it
you seem a bit sick there. Sound
Uh,
like you left with a lot of hype to being promised, but you haven't really delivered.
Yes, yeah, I thought this cold would be better earlier in the year.
I thought that cold should have went away last year, actually, but, you know, it started to stick around.
I cannot seem to get rid of this cold.
Oh, we know the feeling.
But he handballed it to, I can't remember who it was, I think might have been Fantasia, someone who was in the middle of, in pressure with 3 Bulldogs players around him when he himself had an open passage. I don't understand the handballing, and Worsfold doesn't explain it. No one explains it. It just does not make sense. I don't think it'll.
Is the phone on? You got a nice message there, yeah?
Pardon?
Got a good message?
Well, it seems we both got them at the same time.
Goddard message you saying, "Oi, could you not, mate? I'll hit the pretzels."
Oh, Goddard, just a friendly jab.
You know,
And
there's only
toddler
one player in the
unfriendly.
game that was hungry.
Who?
Connor McKernan.
Yes, you're right.
The only hungry player decided to take a bite out of Tory Dixon. And not just that. Okay, Connor.
I think you really
Okay,
did bite off more than a
I can't. My Gaelic isn't good, so I
Okay,
can't. I'll try
yeah.
to talk English.
Here we go. That's good because it's a predominantly English-speaking podcast.
Yeah, but you know, no, we got Irish. We got 3 downlines from Ireland, so our Irish we are popular in Ireland,
We've tripled our
and we're going to
island.
get hated now by the Irish
Yeah.
because of this. McKernan buddy,
Yep.
fella, as Seamus from WWE would say.
Yep. Are you going to say this in Gaelic?
No, I can't speak Gaelic.
Fair enough, then don't. Oh, that never stopped anyone. God, yeah.
I know one
That never
word.
stopped Conor McGregor. Yeah.
I think he was trying to do his best Conor McGregor impersonation when he threw
Yeah.
the thing at the bus. Okay, you get run down. You think you're fast. You get run down. I get the tussle. The tussle's the tussle. You tussle. It's footy. You don't bite like a kid who didn't get his own way, mate.
Yeah.
Especially when you're losing. What is going on with Essendon at the moment?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh.
It really doesn't make sense. I like it's a disappointing display because they've always been, if nothing else, amiable gentlemen on the field. I know that. Let's not talk about the drug saga. That's been well and truly hyped over. But I mean, that is the only time that Essendon has ever been accused of an indiscretion. We very, very rarely get sent to tribunal, our players.
Apart from
and-
a sledgehammer incident in 2009.
but that was nearly 10 years ago now.
Oh, I'm bringing up examples here.
Exactly. Yeah.
History always has.
evidence.
Yeah.
But we have to admit that we are statistically and culturally we are a very polite, dignified, sensible club.
Not as posh
they've
as
had to-
Melbourne, but still.
No.
You don't bring cheese platters to the G.
Well, generally our supporters are servants to Melbourne supporters, so we have to keep it alive to keep this structural civilization alive. But the thing often when they do get sent to tribunal, it's over silly stuff like collisions and accidents. Whereas this is really unacceptable. This biting thing. I mean, and watching the footage.
And the thing is, like I said, it wasn't in a fight in the moment. He got tackled
Yeah.
and then chucked a Jake Carlisle like dummy spit.
No.
It was terrible.
I don't see how you can. I love how you got the Carlisle dummy spitters now.
Oh no, because that's what happened on the weekend
Yeah.
against Adelaide. Yeah, chucked
Yeah.
Adelaide dummy. But it was just
I don't see how you could possibly bite someone in the heat of the moment. Come on, let's go outside and see. I don't like. You're right. There's no. I mean, a punch or a kick, even a striking knee. Not wanting to condone any of those, but you can understand how in a scrum. In a competition, you can easily have limbs flying around.
like I
It would
said,
be easy to do that.
what
Whereas,
did my head in the most is the fact that he did it because he didn't get his own way.
Yeah.
He got tackled, got annoyed, and he bit.
yeah,
And 3 weeks was lenient. I think the tribunal had an off week. I think Rance and Sandlands all should have got weeks.
yeah.
Got left off. Only 3 weeks, really weak.
Mm.
And the fact that he's probably in his career best form as well for Essendon.
Probably, yeah.
To get suspended and Hawaii, it's just not a good look for Essendon.
Yeah.
Not a good look for him. Not a good look for people from Ireland, to be honest.
No.
Then, well, Zach Tui is probably the best Irish player at the moment, anyways.
Yeah,
So at least we got him.
Yeah, and he plays for
Geelong.
Geelong, yeah. So that's really saying something when that's the best player we've got. It's pretty. It is a real. It is very bad for the club.
For you people from Ireland, please don't stop downloading the show. we appreciate your support. I think 4 downloads last week from Ireland, which is
Really?
fantastic. Our Irish listeners love us.
Quadrupled.
It's gonna be fun when none of them download the podcast next week.
Have we actually got any Australian listeners at all?
I
Or
think
is
we
it
got a
just
few.
Ireland?
We got a few Australian listeners. Actually, there was an incident where we weren't even on the podcast.
Really?
I had to fix it up myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but we were never actually on the iTunes store.
Oh.
So that's probably why we had no listeners.
Oh, good. That's
Oh,
of course why
silent,
we
yeah.
had no listeners. It wasn't due to this, but just going through, and yeah. So I think we understand that it's frustrating, and that this is a really, really disappointing time, and that there's lots of that Essendon has been forced in a lot of uncomfortable and frustrating and annoying positions, but. Yeah, if the players are going to start acting like this, and if the small things like these, stupid little fights and spats like this are going to soon turn into real scandals. So beware. But looking at some of the other stats in the game, they were just as bad. We had interesting. We had a lot fewer free kicks, but I don't think that was. I think that was only because Essendon was giving away so many free kicks. I don't think watching the game. I don't think the umpiring was off. I think they genuinely did give away a lot of bad free kicks. And also, the disposals we had more disposals, but far fewer possessions, far fewer contested possessions, 124 to 137, which is interesting with Essendon, isn't it? Because we always have more disposals than the opposition, but they never come to anything. The disposals are people. When they say disposals here, they're talking about disposals like Danaher's disposal into the ground. We also had much fewer kicks, 227 to Essendon's 202. We had, like I said, lots more handballs, and almost half as many clearances. Almost half as many. That's what you were saying last week about how clearances. What do you think of that? 36 to 22 clearances. Only 2/3 of as many clearances as the Bulldogs.
Not good enough.
Yeah.
Absolutely not good enough, to be honest. And it's just it was a frustrating game. I had Essendon in a few weeks ago. Last week I said 9 teams are in the running. There is a good chance that I might cut that down to 8 by the looks of stuff at the moment.
Yeah.
because that's not acceptable for a team that wants to play finals.
No, no, and it's interesting because even it does say that like it says a lot about a club that we aren't more disturbed by this. I mean, Woosha said this morning that he was frustrated with the kicking. I haven't actually looked at that, so I don't know whether he means he's frustrated that they didn't kick more or frustrated with.
I know you're frustrated they didn't kick more.
Well, I honestly am worried that he's frustrated that they were kicking too much. That they still had 195 handballs. And that
Did you
wasn't
remember?
enough.
Did West Coast kick a lot? I think they were very hand pass team because they had the midfield. They had Judd, Kerr, Cousins, and Cox.
Yeah.
So they had the midfield to hand pass. Where Essendon, as good as Heppel and Merritt are,
Yeah.
they don't have a Cox in the ruck.
No.
Who's probably one of the best ruckmen of all time.
Yeah. And they don't have any targets. That was the thing about the Fremantle match.
Banfield tagged Merritt
Yeah.
out of the game, and so you're left with one midfielder, which was Heppel.
That was the other thing about the Fremantle match. Every single time that Essendon would have it up their end, there was always at least one or two Fremantle players in their defence, in their forward, just waiting for to give them targets. And in the Essendon match, in the Bulldogs match, that moment when they turned over the now famous moment when Danaher turned over to
That could end your
Green.
season because when we get into who Essendon plays next on this weekend, we'll find out why.
I don't want to know about
But
that. So anyway,
let's
the
jump
last thing
to
I'd say
our-
about that, just one more thing about the Essendon match. The fact that, I mean, to miss is one thing, but the fact that they are so easily letting opposition teams get it up 2 targets in the forward line so they can then kick an easy goal. I mean, it wouldn't have been so bad. It was embarrassing what happened with Danaher and Green, but it was just damaging that they were then able to get a goal in less than 20 seconds because of it. So they really, if they're going to hand pass and if they're going to play this unnecessarily tight and frivolous match, this style, then they really need to make sure that they've got their bases covered.
On the bright side, there was no injuries, which is always good. There's no injury concerns. There was a late out. Can't remember who the late out was now, but it didn't really make a difference in the end result. But you still got Patrick Ambrose listed as a test. Travis Collier's got 3 to 4 weeks. Matthew D is 2 to 3 weeks. Francis is still no return date. Marty Gibson 8 to 10, and Ben McNice with a McNice hamstring injury. Got a week on the sidelines there. So it's good. Our injury list is not big, which is always good. But next week, you think there'll be players getting dropped?
Yeah, I think can I say something very controversial?
Say something very controversial. That's what the Flying Out podcast is made for.
Do you think they would be crazy if they dropped Danaher?
Well, that is controversial, isn't it?
Yeah, I know that they hang on to him, but I really don't know what he offers them now. I mean, he kicks a few goals, but not more than some of these other people they're bringing in could do. Even if they move Merritt up, Merritt almost has as good a goal kicking record as Danaher this season, and even if they just moved him away from the forward line, but I reckon if they, I would maybe not drop, maybe that was just a bit of a rash thing to say, but I wouldn't be surprised if they moved him around. In terms of drop, though,
Do you think they should drop Stringer? Because he's been
quiet. I don't think he's been
he
detrimental.
played his best game on the weekend against the Doggies, but even that wasn't.
Yeah.
I remember the article in 2016
Yeah.
that Stringer will make the Etihad Stadium like Gary Ablett made the G.
Maybe.
But that was in 2016.
Yeah.
Before he got dropped and then left the Doggies. And now as a Essendon, what a career
And
down.
Gary Ablett made the MCG because he played in so many winning teams and premiership teams.
Not in premiership teams, not Gary Ablett.
No, sorry, not
Four runners-up teams he did, but
Yeah, but not. He played
Yeah.
in successful teams,
Yeah.
not grand final teams. Whereas I don't think Essendon, if he's going to play for a team that always gets in the top 8, in the bottom half of the top 8, then I don't think he's going to make
yeah,
any
100%
head.
agree.
Which is no fault of his own. I don't think Stringer's been playing terribly, but I'd be surprised if they dropped him. But at the same time, I don't think it would be.
So it was Matt D that was a late admission with an injury, and
Okay,
yeah. But again, next week, Jackson Mount again has been knocking on the door. Kicked 5 goals in the VFL, which we'll get to later. Sean McKernan kicked 3 goals as well in the VFL. Kyle Langford, Mason Redman, Matt Gulfy, and Jaden Lever should also become under consideration. You'd think the good showings in the VFL. I think Kyle Langford got dropped on the weekend from Essendon.
Yeah.
Because there will be changes. You don't lose 2 games in a row, especially one against a team that went from a team that could make the 8 to wooden spoon fancies.
Yeah.
and expect to be, hunky dory the next week.
I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna keep Langford out. I think he's been a valuable player. I think he's going to be sort of one of these players that always teeters on the edge of VFL and AFL.
Yes.
A bit like a Heath Hocking type, but I think he'll be. I reckon you're right. He'll be allowed back in.
Well, on the AFL.com website, they've got David Myers, Josh Bagley.
Yeah.
Matthew Dees was out, and then Connor McKernan, who's now going to miss 3 weeks. So you got Connor McKernan's definitely out, so there'll be a change.
Yeah.
You expect a backman. But
I don't know of him.
Don't know who Backman is?
No, I just get it. Go on, sorry. We like to have fun here.
We are two struggling comedians, to be honest.
That's it.
Like, extremely struggling.
Well, you're a struggling comedian. I'm just struggling. Go on, sorry.
But I think Jackson Merritt would have to get a sniff. He's been knocking on the door all year. In what it's safe to say could be his final season. Because he's, again, once you struggle not to make the team for 3 years straight, you're kind of on the outer.
Yeah. How old is he?
24.
Yeah.
An average football career is 3 years as well. People will remember that.
Yeah.
But who do you think? I think, as I said, Jackson Merritt should be in. And I think maybe they'll bring back in Kyle Langford as a 2.
Yeah.
And someone will need to get dropped.
Yeah. When you look at it, I can't think who to drop. To be honest, I wasn't really paying that much attention to the players as individuals this week because I was just so shocked. I was actually paying a lot of attention to the Bullies as well because I don't think they played terribly well. I think they were lucky to end up with a broken Essendon, but I wouldn't be surprised if they get hammered next week. But I don't know. To be honest, I don't know who they could drop. They'll probably end up dropping a fringe player who don't notice. Begley played, didn't he?
Throw someone on the bus, yeah.
Begley played, didn't he?
Yeah.
If he did, he was very quiet. I reckon they'll probably drop someone like Begley. Another of these fringe. They will probably drop someone who's fringe and who is so quiet that who is so unexpected that. Who played so unexpectedly that it is unexpected when they realise he dropped them. But then you think, oh yeah, he didn't do much on the weekend. So I think Begley will probably be.
So they'll throw someone under the bus.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's go back to the game.
Like I said, I wouldn't.
Another positive here, the VFL team. The VFL started on the weekend for Essendon.
Yeah.
I know the first game was 2 weeks ago with Werribee and Geelong playing, but the first game for Essendon played against Frankston, the newly reformed Frankston. Wasn't really newly reformed, but Essendon running over the top 21-17, 143 to 6-5-41.
Yeah.
Not as bad as Collingwood's 31-15, 201 to 11-5-71.
Yeah.
Smashing, but it was smashing nonetheless, which is the main reason probably why they're talking about bringing in the reserve league because all the AFL teams won, and they won quite convincingly over their non-AFL team counterparts.
Yeah, and I know that this is an extremely weakened Frankston, probably the worst they'll ever be, given that they're so new, that they don't have an AFL affiliation, their players are unseasoned, and I believe they were playing at a new stadium, weren't they? Skybus Stadium. However, they still were convincing enough to be for this beat. They still were strong enough for this win to be convincing, I think. And 102 points, that is even in the VFL, that is phenomenal. So that I think there's a lot to commend them about. And like you say, Jackson Merritt and Danny Newman kicking 5 goals each is fantastic. That's the sort of thing we need to see more of in the AFL.
Yes, or do you want to see more in the AFL? So get around Dylan Clark as well for Essendon. 10 tackles on the weekend.
Yeah.
That is absolutely massive.
Yeah.
Also, Lundberg with 31 hit-outs. Redmayne as well, and Langford who also played really well, as well as Mr. Number 55 himself.
Yeah.
I say that because the name's not loading. Daniel Yonan.
Oh, yeah.
Yonan. Big boy Yonan, I think. I actually don't know how tall he is. He played well, having 11 kicks.
Yeah.
Kicking 5 goals, though. 5 absolute snaggers, along with Jackson Merritt kicking the 5 goals as well.
Fantastic.
So, interesting game. It was a good game. Good win.
Also, a few people that did, like midfielder Nick Hind, who held on to Ruck Lewis Pearce and stopped him from being able to really get a break.
Yeah.
So that's sort of less unstatistical achievements that helped them get such a big lead.
Next up for Essendon, they play Williamstown on the Saturday, the 14th of April at 2 p.m. down in Williamstown.
And they're the reigning premiers, I believe.
No, Port Melbourne.
Port Melbourne, sorry.
I went to when Williamstown won the premiership a few years ago. They played Box Hill. The best example. The best thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
I can't remember what happened. So yeah,
Set the
Williamstown.
scene. It was a stormy day.
Williamstown versus Box Hill.
Yeah.
And it was just, the crowd was into it. There was probably a good 20,000 there. It was a nice crowd for the VFL game. This guy was just quiet. He's quiet all day.
Yeah.
He kick a goal. What I go? I was like, whoa, whoa. He was.
Just out of nowhere. Why did you go to a Williamstown Box Hill match?
Why wouldn't you? Nah, my little brother got into this thing, and we got to go to the TAC Cup Grand Final and the VFL Grand
nice.
Final
Oh,
for
cool.
free. It was
You have to
quite
win
cool.
it to go to the
Yeah.
Williamstown Box Hill Grand Final.
But,
wouldn't it?
gave me a heart attack
Yeah.
and a half, to be honest.
How old was he?
I was an old man, very old man.
Yeah.
Second,
Probably gave him a heart
actually,
attack.
not the worst. The worst sport I've ever seen was actually New Zealand. I went
Okay.
to a Wellington Phoenix Melbourne Heart game when I known as Melbourne
Yeah.
Heart.
Yeah.
And this guy, every 5 minutes, I should have timed him.
yeah.
Calm the Phoenix. Calm the Phoenix.
He's like he sure it wasn't just a scarecrow with a voice
I
recorder in
I
it?
think it was just a voice recorder. 'Cause it was just,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, shut up. Run, you're New Zealander. You don't care about soccer.
At Anzac Day last year, there was a guy who would just not shut up, and he was talking incessantly. I think he was a Collingwood supporter as well, so that stands to reason. And I was like, "Yeah, go on, you bro, keep going." And then I said to him, I said to him at just one point, mate, like, you sitting next to me, and I said, "Oh, gee, it's weather's nice or something," and he goes, "Yeah," and then just remained silent for the rest of the game. So it's weird. It's the kind of people you meet.
Oh, it's
It's been a bad round when we're talking more about the supporters than we are about the club. What else has happened? Is there any other real news in Essendon? There's no
No, the VFLW again doesn't start till next month.
yeah.
But it's been a good start. You start off positive. Essendon was unlucky to make the grand final last year,
yeah.
and we did not kick. Christopher Howard kicked the most goals with 8 goals, 72 last season. And unfortunately for Essendon, the AFL Essendon now,
Yeah.
it's the return of the key forward with Buddy, Cameron, Lynch, Benning Brown.
Yeah.
Joe Danaher, I think, missed out on the invitation, to be honest. He just did not show up. So, this is the favourite part of the round. This is the fact of the round. You get a fact from round 4 in a certain year, and I try to guess, or you try to guess the fact.
Definitely. Yeah. This year is 1942.
Classic year.
Yep, classic year, right in the middle of the war. And understandable that the attendance was quite low. It was played at Princes Park. You know why it was played at Princes Park?
Because MCG wasn't available.
Yeah, it was used as an American military base.
I think that's what the grand final was when Essendon defeated Richmond as well.
So you could say that there were bombers at the MCG as well. Anyway, you could say that.
Tough crowd.
Tough crowd. It's a few years before the worst ever grand final in history, which was the Carlton
bloodbath?
South Melbourne match of 1945,
bloodbath.
the bloodbath, when something like more than half the players were suspended and the other half were injured. This year, but anyway, 1942, Essendon played which team and which one won?
Essendon played South Melbourne.
1942, no.
No, who they play?
They played Richmond. I thought I'd bring this one up because it's just a nice reminder. It's nice and soothing to remember a time when Richmond was bad.
They lost the grand final that year.
Essendon?
No, Richmond.
Yeah, they lost the grand final in 1942
Yes.
and they got hammered 132 to 79. So that was at Princes Park. Granted, during the war and everything, it was fairly poor
Well, it
conditions,
was
but
kind of the
still.
start of Essendon's dominant as well in the 1940s, where they went on to play, I think, 7 grand finals in a row if you count a draw as a grand final.
Yes.
They played 40, 46, 47, 48, 48, 49,
50
and then 50.
and 51.
Yeah, and then 51, yeah.
So they played, yeah. So
Losing, and they won in 1940. So won 46, lost 47 by a point, drew 48, lost the 48 replay. And if you check the score, they kicked like 27 points. Defeated Carlton in 49, defeated North Melbourne in their first ever grand final in 1950, won in 51. Lost in 51 because John Coleman got suspended in the prelim final.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's right.
I know me facts, mate.
So you know your John Coleman suspension fact.
Yes. John Coleman is the last premiership coach apart from Kevin Sheedy. So,
Yeah.
and the last coach to win a final that wasn't Kevin Sheedy was all the way back in 1968.
That's crazy.
That's a terrible stat.
That is terrible. That is insane to think that we've only had 2. We haven't had a premiership apart from Sheedy. We haven't had a premiership captain since John Coleman.
Yeah.
That's mad.
In 1965.
Yeah, that's almost St Kilda level.
Well,
Bad.
it was. You defeated St Kilda in that grand final.
Exactly. But yeah, so there's the stat of the week.
So, fortunate or unfortunate news now. Next week at Etihad Stadium, Essendon versus the Port Adelaide Power.
I want it to be said from the very first round that I called and still do call Port Adelaide as the premiers.
I
think-
highly disagree.
You reckon?
I think they were. They have not been. They're impressive against Sydney,
Yeah.
but they weren't as impressive against Fremantle, and definitely weren't impressive against the Brisbane Lions.
No, I think they were impressed. I mean, Brisbane have these weird matches. Brisbane is like a volcano, like a dormant volcano. It just sits there like a boring mountain. Then out of nowhere, it'll just burst a little bit and release some hot and some destruction and lava. But then it just goes back for another 1,000 years of nothing. I think losing to Brisbane, particularly after Brisbane had beaten Gold Coast last week, wasn't it?
Brisbane.
Brisbane played last week.
Port Adelaide.
No, the week before. Sorry,
Melbourne.
it wasn't Melbourne. That's right, it was. And they won, didn't they?
Lost.
Never mind. Other than that, though, that
We
stat was
watched the
fantastic,
game.
though.
We watched the game as well.
I know.
I know we're kind of distracted with the free wrestling game, but we were watching, especially when the scores were level, like halfway through the last quarter. We watched the game. Come on, Andrew.
Anyway, well, driven by that, I don't think Port Adelaide were terribly unbecoming against these other teams. I still think the way that they carried themselves in the first round is enough. And then they let's not forget they did win 2-1. They are currently on top of the ladder.
Yeah, the first time in over a decade that a team is only team that's undefeated after 3 rounds.
Yeah.
So usually there's more than one team, and shows how close the season is. I mean, that's why I don't think Port Adelaide is as good as people think they are.
Yeah, but I don't think we can sniff at that. I mean, they've won 3 matches. They
have.
Granted, they
North
only
Melbourne won
not
9 in a row in
convincingly.
2016.
Yeah, well, exactly. There you go. That destroys my point then. Look at that. They've become the shining bastion of success ever
But
since.
let's go to the last 5 as well.
Yeah.
Round 15, 2013, Essendon defeated Port Adelaide 18-10, 118 to 12-16, 88 at Etihad Stadium. Port Adelaide went on to play finals that year where Essendon did but did not. They were in the top 8 because of the drug saga. They got kicked out of the finals. 2014, Essendon got over them again at Adelaide Oval. He won interstate. 8-14, 62 to 7, 18-60. 2015, Port Adelaide got over Essendon. 129 to, that's actually not a bad score, 29 to 129.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 109. That's odd.
That's
To
weird.
17, 14, 116 at Etihad Stadium. 2016, so you play once a year. You don't do double up for some reason. They won again.
Essentially, though, we've had a pretty good record at Etihad, though.
Yeah.
Better than at
Really?
in Adelaide.
Really?
Better than at Adelaide.
Because,
against-
again, they defeated you 17, 10, 112 to 79, 51. And the last one, last year at Etihad Stadium,
Yep.
19, 17, 131 to 8, 13, 61.
Yeah, ignore that match. But the rest of it was...
Why he's won?
You said Port Adelaide.
Essendon won
Essendon.
19, 17, 131.
Okay, sorry.
So let's remember that match. Maybe not the last 2 before that.
No, fair enough. But I think I think
So
we
three of
don't
the
play
last
terribly
5.
against Port Adelaide.
Yeah, 3 out of the last 5, not too bad.
We play against them, but I wouldn't be surprised if they lost. I think it's less shameful to lose against Port Adelaide than any of the other teams we lost against.
Well, who do we have the week after play? Because there's an issue. We don't want to be.
that's Anzac
We
Day.
don't want to be 1 and 3.
That's Anzac
Yes, we do. And then after Anzac Day, it is against Melbourne at Etihad Stadium. There we go. Got confused. I read the wrong team. Yeah,
Right.
Essendon versus Melbourne at Etihad Stadium. It's going to be good. So
both
there's an
fairly-
issue that Essendon could drop to 5 and 1.
Yeah, well, I don't think that. I reckon we'll have a better chance of beating Collingwood and Melbourne.
I
I'm
know
confident
Melbourne's on
against
fire
them.
at the moment. Melbourne are hungry. They are
They're not fire. They're mildly warm. I don't.
Yes,
they're
but Essendon
slightly
is stone
singed.
cold.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, they're about to be known as
is-
Steve
yeah,
Austin. That's how
Essendon is
stone
a
cold they
lasagna
are.
that's been left in the fridge and doesn't seem to cook at
Oh,
all.
it
And
was-
will one day burn on the outside and still be cold on
It
the
was
inside.
terrible.
I agree. All right, yeah, fair enough. But I still Essendon and Melbourne. Essendon definitely has a better record against Melbourne.
Melbourne
And-
won last time they played.
Yeah, but generally speaking, though, I think they're pretty even. And Anzac Day, well, I mean, Anzac Day can go either way, but we won last year, and we hadn't have a terrible record against none of these teams that we're about to play. Port, Melbourne, and Collingwood. None of them we have a terrible record against. None of them are the teams that we played that haven't won against in sort of 10 years type thing. So I'd be confident they could beat any of them except Port Adelaide. I wouldn't be surprised. I think if we lost to Port Adelaide, it would be disappointing, but it wouldn't be an absolute travesty. And if they
Oh, I
beat Port
think it might
Adelaide, then
be.
I think if they beat Port Adelaide, it would be the equivalent of beating Hawthorn or Richmond or Sydney. Honestly.
I think if you lose Port Adelaide, it's because I think Melbourne's going to be a big game, and
Yeah.
you don't want to be 2 and 5,
No,
2
no.
and 4.
Of course not. No.
That's not where you want to be in a team that
No.
wants to play top 4.
No.
You're
What
still
about
scraping the 8, but that's not where you want to be.
this? Is a hypothetical.
Oh, I love hypotheticals.
Going down the road, that's why we're doing this podcast. If we were to beat if we were to beat Port and Collingwood, then we would have, then we'd be 3-2. How would you feel about going into it then against Melbourne?
Then we'll see where Melbourne's at.
enough.
That's relying on what the other team's doing as well. Melbourne
Yeah.
could lose the next 2 games.
Yeah, and if Melbourne lost the next 2 games, then they'd be 2-4.
2-4, yeah.
2-4, yeah. So that's not fantastic either.
But it's very interesting. I actually believe Essendon would win this game.
Yep.
Yep. Though Port Adelaide, like I said, I don't think Port Adelaide's that good. Where I don't believe Essendon. I do believe Essendon's more hungry than Port Adelaide is. So I do believe Essendon should get over the line by around 30 points.
Well, certainly Conor McKenna is, but as a team, I don't think Essendon is that hungry. I think they've got issues and they're a bit deflated, if anything. And I think the Fremantle game should have made them hungry. The Bulldogs game has
They have
just
to
shown
be
that they're
starving now.
desperate now. Yeah, if I hope so. If Port Adelaide, meanwhile, I think are very hungry because they're on top of the ladder. I can sense that they've got just the fact that they keep changing the team week after week. I think is evidence that they're really trying to capitalise on this momentum. And I wouldn't be surprised if they really beat us badly. I'd be disappointed, but not surprised if that happens. So I'm predicting that Port Adelaide are going to win, even though it's at Etihad.
Very positive.
But not by a huge margin, maybe 10, 15 points.
Very positive there. That's all the time for we have here at the Flying Up Podcast. Make sure you join us next week. Download the podcast. Like us on the Flying Up Podcast on Twitter or Facebook, the Flying Up Podcast, as well as all your podcast stores and podcast apps.
Yep.
Make sure you download us at the Flying Up Podcast, where we go type in SIN Flying Up Podcast. So thank you all the time for what we have for this week.
Don't forget to like us on facebook.com/Flying Up Podcast. Let us know if you have any comments about it.
And if you want a hand pass to the ground, just do it.
Please do. Yes, yeah.
you
We're
very
hand
much.
passing. You're Josh Green and we're Danaher. We're hand passing to you for another week.
Thank you very much.
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 For another week.